So let's get started. So, little introduction. Looks a little wonky. So my name's Tripp. I'm director of the link removal department. I specialize in link analysis, mostly backlinks, dealing with manual and algorithmic unnatural links penalties from Google, and as well as negative SEO as well. And I've been in the industry for 3 years since one of the first Penguin algorithms was released. And Angular is a full-service SEO agency. We do anything from link removal, PPC, just the whole breadth of stuff that SEO companies do. All right. So, what is Penguin? Penguin is an algorithm that Google released. The first one they released was in April of 2012. And they released it because a lot of people were spamming links trying to get their websites to rank higher in Google for certain keyword terms. And this exploitation kind of pushed them to create a whole new department that was headed by Matt Cutts. He's still technically the head of the link spam department, or the Google search quality department, but he's on sabbatical, so they don't really have a head of link spam right now, as he's still on vacation. But they've released 7 updates thus far. The latest being Penguin Everflux, which the ones previous, they released updates where the algorithm, they manually changed it. Now Everflux is kind of, they're releasing small little updates, so it's going to be less impactful than the one in the past. Now you or someone you know has probably been affected by Penguin, whether you like to believe it or not, because links are still the primary go-to that Google uses to rank websites. Now there are other things. There's been discussion about social signals and stuff like that, but those don't have as heavy of an impact as links do. And if you want to look at Google algorithm changes, I have a link at the bottom for moz.com. They update that every time there's a little shift, not just Penguin, it could be Panda, which is more so about content on the site. So let's move on to the next one. So why should you even care about Penguin? Well, there's a bunch of reasons you should care about Penguin. You know, if you own a website and you rely on Google for any amount of traffic to your website, then you should probably care about Penguin, because it probably affects you. So why are people affected by Penguin? Well, usually that's due to link schemes. Link schemes can range from anything to just buying a link. It's mostly free or paid links, ways to get links easy rather than earning them naturally. So what is a link scheme? So I have a quote up here. It's from the link schemes post on Google. Any links intended to manipulate PageRank or sites ranking in Google's search results. So that could be a multitude of things. Link exchanges, article sites, directory and bookmark sites, forum comment spam. Most of the time it's links with optimized anchor text. So a lot of times people will go out and build links. So say you have an e-commerce site selling kitchen accessories. You probably want to rank for something like pots and pans or something like that. So you'd go out and build links with that particular anchor text so you could rank for those terms. But when you get a lot of those links with those same anchor phrases and your branded anchor gets lower and lower, that's when you get in the danger zone. And that's when you can at least get caught in either the Penguin algorithm or if it gets bad enough and a Google team member has to review your site, then you can get a manual penalty. Now that's not to say that any of these methods don't still work, but it is inadvisable to use them at this point. Back before 2012, a lot of these methods were industry standards. I mean, you'd go to most any SEO company out there, and they would tout pretty much all of these methods because they were industry standards. But unfortunately, the industry changes, and if you don't change, then you may fall behind. I'll go ahead and address the question about Yahoo and Bing. I know Bing has been they've been focusing a lot more on link spam, so they have their own Webmaster Tools account. I haven't personally dealt with any penalties with Bing, but I know they have an algorithm that's it pretty much models Penguin in essence. So the same rules kind of apply. And I'll answer other questions at the end. So let's move on. So how do you know if you have a penalty? Well, first off, you should probably check your Google Analytics account. If you see a big dip like that, where 1.0 is, Penguin 1.0, you've probably been affected by Penguin. Usually it hits your traffic pretty hard, and you'll go from ranking, on the first page, anywhere from the second. I've seen people fall down to the 20th, 30th page. So you may be in trouble if you see anything like this. There's other ways to tell if you have a penalty. Primarily, you can check your Google Search Console account, and under your Manual Actions tab, it's under Search Traffic, you could have a partial match with an unnatural links penalty. Typically, Google will send you a message too, so the email address that you have registered to your Google Search Console account will get a message. So you see this, it's not that bad. It's not the end of the world. It's happened to a lot of people. It's happened to hundreds of people that have come to us, and we've gotten them out every single time. So let's move on. So you have a penalty. Now what do you do? So the main thing I try to tell people is to maintain a positive attitude. A lot of people will just more or less give up because they've spent all this money on acquiring links, and they feel like they've just thrown their money away. But that's not really the case. I've gotten pretty much everyone out of penalty thus far. So as long as you follow my guide, you're going to get in the clear. So you want to determine the severity of the issue. If it's just a partial links penalty like the slide before, it's not the end of the world. There's definitely other penalties out there. The first link on this slide will show you those other penalties, like if your site gets hacked or if you just have thin content, you can get pure spam. But this is more so covering unnatural links penalties. So, and you also need to make sure it's not an algorithmic change or negative SEO. So first off, you need to start downloading link data from Google Search Console. You should have started doing this yesterday because Google, that's the main least place you want to look for links because those are the ones they're looking at in terms of link spam. And the only bad thing about Google Search Console and the links they provide, say you have 1 million links that Google has at their disposal. They're only going to give you about 100,000 of those, so 10% each time you export. So you may need to export, every other day or so to get the full breadth of link data that Google has. So let's move on to the next one. Step 1, so obtain link data. Like I said before, Google Search Console is the main place you want to get links. You can also find links from places like Ahrefs, Majestic, Moz has a tool. It used to be called, I think it's still called Open Site Explorer, but it's a little bit, I have the link up there. Google Search Console, and there's several others too you can find out there. Just to reiterate, these are paid services, at least Ahrefs, Majestic, and Moz. Google Search Console is free, so if you have the time, you can get most of the link data you want from Google Search Console. But Majestic has the biggest link data source. What tool is better to use, Moz, Ahrefs, or Majestic? So I would say Majestic has the biggest link data source. They have the biggest index. So that one I think would be the best bang for your buck. I know Ahrefs has been going through some API issues, but Moz is also trusted, but I think they're the smallest. It just depends on how many servers they have dedicated to crawling the web. Majestic's pretty big, so is Google. So my vote's with Majestic. So second, once you have all this linked data, you want to condense the data, remove duplicates, and crawl it. So you can condense the data in Excel or Google Sheets if you don't have Excel. You can also use Remove Them to do this for you, which is our own tool for link removal. We also have access to the Ahrefs and Moz API, so you can put your site in as long as you have control. We have a couple determining factors to determine that you have control of the website. And you upload your site, and it'll add data from Ahrefs and Moz, and you can add data from anywhere else to remove them, and it'll crawl it for you. But if you don't have, if you don't want to use Remove Them, you can use stuff like urlprofiler.com. I know they have a free version for like 14 days where you can crawl. Link Research Tools is another one. And there are a couple others out there. I think you can use Screaming Frog. But I always suggest using Remove Them. That's what I use every time. So let's move on. So step 2, let's analyze the links. So what makes a link good or bad? Well, as I said before, anything that is a link scheme is pretty much what Google's looking for. So SEO-friendly directories, article sites, any website that doesn't relate to you. So there are 4 determining factors that I've come up with, 2 of which are the most important, which is anchor text and relevance. So if you see a link that has the anchor text, I'll use the example I used before for an e-commerce kitchenware website, pots and pans, and the website is about workout equipment. It's not really all too relevant to kitchen accessories, so that one's probably a bad link. And as I said before, tools you'll need, Microsoft Excel or Google Sheets, and a crawling tool, and knowledge of modern SEO quality guidelines. A place to get those, there are plenty of experts in the field. I suggest learning from people who post on Moz, Search Engine Roundtable, and places like that. So once you've analyzed the links, once you've determined which ones are good, which ones are bad, then you want to move on to removing aforementioned links. Also, another plug, we have a free tool on our website where you can determine which anchor text Google's probably looking at. So this one is mytvoptions.com. They obviously want to rank for DirecTV, and their root domain's linking to it, 48, whereas their brand, mytvoptions, has 5. And this is more the determining factor of what Google looks for and what their algorithm detects in terms of anchor text optimization. So it's very easy to determine that they are trying to game the system. A more natural way and an easier way for them to not get caught would be to try to keep it more even. So you'd want your brand to be up there with those money terms where it wouldn't look as unnatural. So let's move on to removing links. So you want to track your progress because you're going to have to send a letter to Google eventually and show them the work that you did. So again, I use Remove Them for this. It'll find your contact information and everything like that. And you can export spreadsheets through this. Because when I started doing this, we were working straight from spreadsheets. We analyzed the links in spreadsheets. We would have to manually check the links or just use free crawlers. And that's kind of what spurred us to build Remove Them. And it was basically to make an easier way to track your progress, to remove the links, to find contact information, to track the links as well. So once you've sent out emails, I suggest sending anywhere between 2 and 3 emails to each website. And additionally, Remove Them will document the dates that you send it and the number of emails, and you can make notes. So a lot of times you'll get webmasters responding, hopefully, to remove the links. Most of the time people will say, okay, I removed the link. Easy as that. There are other cases where I have it listed here where people will ask for a payment. We call them ransoms. I have a blog post actually about this, about the ethical analysis of link removal ransoms, because I've encountered it from day one of sending out these emails. And one reason people ask for payment is when they initially put the link up, they were probably paid to put the link there, kind of like the SEO-friendly directories. You pay one person, $10, $20, $100, and they put links all over their network. There's 2 that I know of that boast about 4,000 to 5,000 directories, and it costs $5 per site to remove those links. So that price can rack up pretty high. Google's actually come out and addressed ransoms and said, you don't have to pay them, just disavow them. And that's why they created the disavow tool, because of the number of problematic webmasters that don't want to remove the links unless you pay them. I've also had people refuse or just start berating, me or the people, other people removing the links. So you want to document that as well and disavow them because they're not going to remove the link. There's also cases where contact forms are broken, email inboxes are full, so the email will just bounce. A lot of these people, if they're getting link removal emails, they're probably getting other link removal emails. And as those compile, they may just give up. They may just abandon the website or abandon that inbox. So that's another kind of thing that happens because people just won't respond. And that's just kind of the name of the game. I mean, I would say out of, say, give like 100 domains, probably about 10 of them, 10 to 20 will be unresponsive because they just give up. How often do I rely on who is contact info? I rely on it pretty heavily. Remove Them actually grabs that for us, but if it's a foreign website, you kind of got to use different whois contact finders. So usually it's pretty reliable. It just depends. Also, whois is a great place. If you find a lot of websites with the same IP, then they're probably all owned by the same person. You can kind of check whois to find that as well. And unfortunately, usually the networks, they're the ones that are going to charge, that are going to want payment, because they're paying for those websites to stay up, and they need food too, I guess. Let's move on to step 4. So once you've removed the links, and at least tried to remove the links, you want to upload a disavow file which contains all domains that have not removed links. So that's more of a softer approach. My heavy-handed approach, which I've taken on recently, is to just disavow everything that used to unnaturally link to you, whether or not they remove the links or not. Now, the reason I do this is it's been, I would say, about a year and a half since this happened, but we had one rejection letter which contained 3 example links, and one of the links was removed, but I didn't include it in the disavow file. According to Google, the link was still there, but at least once we checked it, once I just visit the website, the link isn't. So to avoid that, just disavow it. Pretty much everything that unnaturally linked to you. You don't want the link juice from those sites anyway. It doesn't really matter because you want more high quality links once you get clear of penalty. After you've uploaded the disavow file, then it's time to move on to the reconsideration request. Could it help for a gambling site? Yeah, I've gotten a couple gambling and poker sites out of penalty, so it definitely could help. The only bad thing about the gambling sector is it's rife with negative SEO, so you may be combating that as well because it's very, very competitive. But onto the reconsideration request. It's also better known as an apology to Google. So really what you want to do is fully explain the situation. So you want to explain how you got here. You know, did you hire an SEO company or a freelancer to build your links? Provide them Google Doc links to the analysis that you did, to the removal outreach spreadsheets. You can upload those to Google Drive and provide them to Google. I suggest doing that because Google puts more trust in Google Drive rather than hosting the spreadsheet on your website or something like that. And it's free. So once you have all of that data together, you also want to ensure Google that you aren't going to go back to those spammy ways. So you want to say, you know, I fired, you know, the freelancer, or, you know, we hired a new SEO company and they're going to focus on blogging and obtaining, you know, natural links, however that's done. This, that, and the other. So once you have the reconsideration request drafted, you want to submit it to Google through Google Search Console, and then you pretty much you just have to wait for a reply. And Google, back in when penalties first arose back in 2012, it would take them upwards of 4, 5, 6 weeks to get back to you because they had so many letters coming through to them. I think Matt Cutts said at one point they were getting about 5,000, it was either per week or per month. They were getting a lot. And used to, back in the day, you could just submit a reconsideration request even if you didn't have a penalty. They have since taken that away and only allow you to submit a reconsideration request if you have a penalty. So nowadays it's more of a 1 to 2, maybe upwards of 3-week wait time for a Google response. Last time it was about 8 days. So once Google responds, you'll get 1 of 2 responses. Hopefully, you'll get the better of the 2 responses and you'll get the penalty lifted. So they'll send you a message that looks pretty much similar to this, except where the blacked out areas are. It'll have your website name. So the penalty gets lifted and you're pretty much out of the danger zone. But it doesn't mean that you should go back to your spammy ways. As you told Google before, that you weren't going to go back to those same methods, so you should probably change at least your methodology up a little bit. Because it hasn't been confirmed, but once you're on Google's radar, it's best not to, you know, ping yourself and get back under the crosshairs of the Google quality search team. So unfortunately, in our time of doing penalty recovery, we've gotten a couple of these messages where the reconsideration request is rejected. And this is due to a couple things. You weren't judgmental enough in determining which links were good and bad. You didn't disavow enough. And Google will provide sample URLs. There's also a space at the end where they'll sometimes add notes. So if this is like the 5th reconsideration request you've submitted and they reject it, they're probably going to give you some notes on the things you need to look out for and the things you need to try to fix. So given those sample URLs, you want to go out and, you know, remove links from those first, or at least try to. and disavow them pretty much immediately. But more or less, you're going to have to repeat steps 1 through 5, which doesn't mean it's the end of the world. It's just going to take another couple weeks. And at the end of the reconsideration request rejection letter, it actually says that you should wait a couple weeks because removing links takes time. And they want you to wait a couple weeks before submitting another. So, once you get the rejection letter, it's probably not a smart idea to just submit another reconsideration request letter the next day. You should probably wait a week or two because you want to remove some links. You want to analyze those links, remove, disavow, then submit another reconsideration request. And as I said before, you want to be more judgmental when it comes to determining which links are good versus bad. So some other issues with backlinks to note. Negative SEO, as we all know, has become kind of, I don't know, it's become more prevalent in the past 3 years since the onset of Penguin. And it's kind of a shame because they're using a lot of the old tactics that used to work, but now are just spammy. Most of the tactics are stuff that can be automated, like comment spam, creating forum profiles with links with optimized anchors. And most of the time when it comes to negative SEO, you're using anchor text that doesn't relate to your website. So I'm going to go back to my kitchenwares example. Most of the time, the anchor text won't relate to it. It'll be either porn, pill, or poker, unfortunately. And that's pretty much what I see when it comes to negative SEO. I have one client currently, and he has been getting about 1,000 new links a week through this spam. So pretty much the easiest way to deal with it is to disavow those sites. A lot of those comment links are no followed now, so they don't carry any link juice with them. So more or less the methods are ineffective, at least if you can catch them, if someone is monitoring them. And I do not suggest going out and doing negative SEO. It doesn't work, and it's an easy way to get yourself and your website blacklisted from Google. Other issues, algorithmic penalty. So if you've seen a traffic drop that correlates with a Penguin update and you don't have a message from Google, you could probably be caught in an algorithmic filter. So going back to the anchor text over optimization, you have your money terms, you have 45 links on 45 domains with those money terms, and you only have 5 links with your branded. That's probably pretty indicative that it is an algorithmic filter, and you'll probably need to remove some of those links / disavow them, at least the ones that are lower quality, to try to get out of that algorithmic filter. And it could be something else entirely. It could be not Penguin related, why your traffic dropped. It could be Panda related. That one right here. And so Panda relates to on-site content. So if you have a bunch of duplicate content, if you're using a scraper to scrape content from Wikipedia or your competitors and repost it to your site, you can get caught in a Panda filter. You can actually also get a thin content / pure spam penalty, which isn't necessarily a death sentence for a website, but it's not good. It's I've gotten people out of those penalties, but it's more difficult because removing links and providing evidence that you've tried to remove those links is easy, but changing the way your website works and how it gets content is a little bit more difficult. So that is the end of my presentation. Thanks for attending my webinar, and I guess I'll open it up to questions and go back through.
Sounds like a politics nowadays. They like to use negative stuff, doesn't they? Okay,
Yeah.
I think it was a question from Anna. Will you tell how to get links? I guess answer is no. Yeah, short answer is no, and you won't talk about that.
Well, I don't really tell how to get links. I can tell you how to remove
Okay,
them.
so, okay, okay, Anna.
But
The
I mean, there's a
answer
multitude
is
of ways to get links.
okay, but it's not up to today's topic. Guys, any more questions? Do we have more questions from audience? Yeah, I understand. The rest of them,
I
you
think I got
were.
one from
Uh,
Max. In in which ways do you recommend to make a new website rather than trying to recover? I haven't yet met a case where it's uh, a lost cause. Maybe that's because I haven't seen the lost causes. Maybe that's because the lost causes gave up before they contacted me. But I would say, at least when it comes to a partial links penalty, I don't think it's a lost cause because I've had plenty of websites that come to me with a penalty, we get them out, and a couple months later they're ranking again for their key terms and stuff like that. Because really, it's Google that is manually keeping you down. Um, and when it comes to an algorithmic filter, that can be a little bit more tricky, especially if all the links that you have are natural. You don't have any natural links. That may be a reason to pack up and start a new website. But just reiterating that I haven't met a case yet that has been a lost cause.
Max, I don't know if it's almost every time easier to remove a penalty than to do a new website. Is how I understand it. Hello, guys. More questions? More questions, guys? Come on. You should have some question. Some questions.
I also want to
No.
reiterate that if you have a website with a penalty and you try to redirect that link juice to a new website, the penalty can carry over. So if you're trying to transfer that link juice that you have from your old site, it's not just going to work to redirect that old website to a new one. Um, if you're going to start new, pretty much start fresh with a clean slate.
Not only not only very expensive, but maybe not very effective either. Okay,
Yeah.
guys, any more questions? Okay, if there is no more questions, I have to say thank you very much, Tripp. Wow, I think it was very interesting. Some movement. Yeah, yeah. Okay, we have a question from Max. Is it true that some penalties have some sort of expiry date? So sometimes you can just wait for without doing anything. Tripp?
That actually is somewhat true. I've had a handful of penalties expire in my time. Um, typically, it's after I've submitted a reconsideration request. So it's a toss-up whether they think that you've removed enough links where they remove the penalty automatically. They haven't really come out and said that there is an expiration date for penalties, but I have seen them expire, but typically it's after I've already submitted a reconsideration request or two. Um, so how does it affect the website to disavow links when it is hit by an algorithmic change? So this is actually a pretty big debate in the penalty recovery sector. Um, typically, when you disavow links, you're only going to see recovery after a major Penguin update / refresh. That's not to say that it won't take effect, in a week or two once Google crawls those links that have been disavowed and takes that disavow file into effect. But it is more effective when Penguin is refreshed. And unfortunately, now it is called Penguin Everflux, as I mentioned before, so it's going into rolling updates or smaller ones. So it may be more often that it gets refreshed that you may see a recovery from the algorithmic update. And what link sources do I use? So I use Ahrefs, Majestic, Moz, and Google Search Console. Those are the 4 that I use every time. When I'm going back to reanalyze links, so if we get a rejection letter, I mainly use Google Search Console. So between the time I first analyze the links, I keep exporting link data from Google Search Console about every week up until the point of the reconsideration request. And if it gets rejected, then I use that link data that I've gathered pretty much that entire time, as well as some after the fact, and analyze those, scrub it against the initial list, and determine which ones are good and bad out of that new data set.
Okay. And Max and Vasil, I don't know, or if they say anything. No more questions, guys. We still have a time if you want to. More questions. Okay. Max said it does answer your question. His question. Okay. Any more
Awesome.
questions? Any more questions? No. Okay. I'll do it again. Then, if there is no more question, we kind of getting to close it. No more question. Sure. It's like auction. 1, 2, 3. Okay. No more question. We have to say thank you very much for very interesting conversation today. Very interesting presentation. Hopefully we can do it in a couple of months at time. I'm pretty sure some new algorithm will come out. Oh, thanks. Okay, it's another thanks for you. Surely, in the next couple of months, will be new algorithms, one new version of all algorithms. What do you think?
Oh yeah, hopefully there will be some new algorithmic updates.
So hopefully, so you can will still be in business. So do we. Okay, hopefully, hopefully we'll see you in a couple of months with a new presentation, with a new very exciting presentation. And I have to say thank you to you, to everybody in the audience. And just to remind you, we have plenty of webinars. Tomorrow we'll have another webinar, so you can have a look at our webpage. There are plenty of possibilities and to choose. Okay, there are plenty of things. Some of them came from your colleagues, I guess, and some of them came from our audience. They all love you, Tripp. Okay, thank you very much, and we'll see you again one day. Okay, see ya. God bless. Wow.
Thanks, Anton.
Yes. Okay. Okay, guys. Thank you very much, and we'll finish just here. Thank you.